Stephen Kendall wrote this one. You may remember him. He was the Mud guy. Mud's Passion. And that's, you can see where he was coming from on this. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this during the TOS stuff, but he was a big Mission Impossible writer too. And remember how I mentioned several times during the TOS things that, Mission Impossible and Star Trek kind of shared a lot of elements of history together since they were both being worked on at effectively the same studio, same lot, while at the same time, and thus there was a lot of sharing of personnel and individuals and props and writers and directors and all sorts of fun stuff like that. So, we all know Mission Impossible was secretly a holodeck program before the holodeck was invented. Anyways, we also had David Gerald in this episode, not as a writer this time. He was trying to get his SAG card, apparently. I've heard differing recountings of this event, but it does seem clear that he really wanted to have an actual acting gig that was legally something that the SAG would qualify as, would consider valid. Would qualify? So, as a direct consequence, he needed to do an actual acting gig, and he needed to be paid for it. This is why they were like, no, dude, we have no budget. We can't do this. He's like, please. All right, fine. So they paid him $75 for his voice acting in the work. He voices M3 Green, a.k.a. M. And is terrible at it, I might add. He's just got this really whining, annoying voice going every time he talks. Which is different from when you do the Ferengi voice. You need to have a lot of modulation up and down the pitch spectrum when you're doing Ferengi. That's how you know it's the good stuff. As opposed to what he does, which he just maintains this one kind of annoying little note constantly as he's talking. Don't do that. If you're getting into voice acting, I guess pro tip, don't do that. So, $75 though. I looked it up. By today's standard, that's $441.86. Now, that sounds like a decent chunk of change, I'm sure, and it is. Except if you consider how much money people get paid for, I can't talk this morning, who get paid for doing even just a single episode of Trek. Or anything, really. Like, if you're pulled in to be a voice actor to do one episode, you'll get paid a little bit more than $400. At least you should. Anyways, so, oh, by the way, 2 guest stars in this episode, if we count him. So that's neat. So here we find out that there's yet another ancient alien race we've never heard of before. It's okay, we'll never hear of them again, too. And they have super advanced tech, and they have super advanced intel, and they're super great in every way, which is why they need to contact other people to go to this planet to find an item for them. I'm not sure why they couldn't just scan the planet and find it, since it's actually mentioned by Spock that they have the ability to scan the planet and then give them what they need to prepare for it. So they obviously have the ability to scan the planet. Not sure why they couldn't just find the item, the soul itself. Or, I don't know, send a ship over and just scan the sucker from orbit? I mean, there's some options here is what I'm trying to say. But I get it. We wanted a Mission Impossible thing. And actually, I think Mission Impossible style things, the heist or the mission type of format actually works Star Trek pretty well. I say that in more of a hypothetical thing than in a literal thing because there have been a few MI-style episodes and most of them have not been done very well. So who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Either way, just having it be on this lava planet doesn't really work for me, especially since their big argument is, well, we can't survive on that planet. Why? No explanation's ever given for this, by the way. I mean, it's a hostile planet, but the human beings are fine there, along with the Vulcan and the Score, and I don't remember what the other two are. So, what's the issue exactly? I mean, if M could survive there, what's your problem? I know, I'm nitpicking again. It's a module. They wanted to run a module. And I find myself wondering if this would have worked better if this had just been, a test, right? We have brought together these races, these people from different races because we wish to test them in gladiatorial games. Whoever wins will be given this great prize of technology and knowledge. There you go. Bam. Fixed. But whatever. So 3 expeditions have been sent and failed. Now, Kirk later mentions that he suspects that all 3 of them were sabotaged. This would imply that at least one member of each of these expeditions was also a score, who also thought like Char did, or included Char himself. In both of these circumstances, I found myself going, wait, what? Because either it's Char himself, which would contradict the whole expedition's lost thing, or multiple score think like Char, which is worrisome for a race that, has the potential to declare a jihad against the entire galaxy. Or these super advanced alien races are actually incredibly incompetent and continue to send people who are deliberately sabotaging things onto these missions because they don't make mistakes. So obviously that would mean they wanted those previous expeditions to fail. Huh. I'm telling you, if they just made this some kind of gladiatorial thing, this would have worked a lot better. Anyways, when I say gladiatorial, I mean like make it a game, like an Olympics thing. That's probably a better word. Make it an Olympics thing. Anyways, whatever. So we've got the module. Okay, cool. This immediately leads to Lara, who has the most natural sounding dialogue I've seen outside of episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Hi, I hate Vulcans. You're hot. Suddenly Lara looks at Kirk. Are you an angel? So we start to see the Mission Impossible structure of the episode. They have encounters. First they have the lava flow. There's actually probably one of the better sequences of the entire episode, which is sad because even that is just kind of eyebrow raising and is so weirdly animated that I found myself not believing / not understanding half the time what's going on. But whatever, we need to do this super rewiring. That's what M and Spock are for. We need to scout out to see, what's coming where. That's what Char is for. We need Lara to find the path where we're going to go, and we need Sword to shove the boulders over. Okay, module. I'm with it. Cool. Encounter defeated. Gain a little bit of experience. No loot. Sorry, you don't get loot from a lava flow. Next, we fight the mechanical things and the lockpick, and this is where M actually really starts to earn his keep because the lock on this thing is actually timed. This is... Char put this here, right? Like, it's implied that Char himself is the one who stole the soul and then put it here. So that means Char, of his own volition, was able to... This, again, implies the idea that Char has been on the previous expeditions, which just makes no sense for several reasons. But Char stole the soul and put it here and had this surprisingly advanced locking mechanism. And was able to have like this whole defense thing on this super death planet and specifically designed this thing. They actually mentioned that the building is flexible so it'll survive on this thing. And that's a lot of construction and work and effort to try and lock this thing away on a mission he himself has been going on to sabotage several times. You couldn't have just chucked it into a star? I know that's my solution for everything, but I'm just saying it would probably be a lot easier and quicker than everything he does in this episode. How does he even get to this planet? Did he have a ship? Does he have super teleporting powers too? None of this is explained. And you're probably thinking, Laura, you're thinking too much about it. In which case, hi, my name's the Lore Runner. Thinking about things is my job. But second of all, even if this wasn't my job, this is the kind of thing I do in general. You've presented something to me, so now I'm thinking about it. And I'm looking at this and saying, well, none of this makes any sense. Again, this would make so much more sense if this was a deliberate test or an Olympic-style thing on behalf of the whatever they're called. But no, Char somehow has this advanced facility that he built with the contents of the space in between his feathers. He gets all the dust out of his feathers, and just goes, whew, and there's a building there. He's really good at it. And he manages to set up this whole thing. And there's he also, oh, by the way, he also comes up with the mechanical birds to help defend the area, just to add to the whole situation. Sure. I mean, we could probably talk away some of this. Like, for example, the implication that there's quite a few people who, are amongst the score who agree with this. So the whole faction is working together to grab this thing and hide it away and whatnot. It's a shame they never mentioned that once in the entire episode. A couple of lines of dialogue would have smoothed that over. How could you? Me and those who think like me. And there you go. Bam. suddenly fixed. Because now he's got backing and a faction and personnel, and all of a sudden it also makes sense to why the previous expeditions failed, because they made sure that one of them would be one of the people always applied. Like, they would be the greatest flyers, and therefore they would be the ones who'd be blah, 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 blah. But no, it's always just him, and he's the only one to get punished after all. Don't worry, he'll be sent back to have his brain rewired, so that'll be cool. I wonder if that was Roddenberry's idea. We do know that Roddenberry was rewriting basically all these episodes, for reasons I've already discussed. And we also know that Roddenberry had the whole, oh, criminals just have their minds made right thing. That came up in TNG. So, I wonder, you know? Anywho, so then he goes on this big spiel about how weaknesses suck and strength is awesome, and dying in war is fantastic. You should try it, guys. It's so amazing. Oh my god. And it's just the usual blah blah blah. I've heard Bond villains who have more impressive or interesting speeches than this one. And I gotta be honest, I would give this episode a plus. Not that these are reviews. If in the middle of his, like, is his big, he's just suddenly, and he falls over stunned. And it cuts to Spock, and he's like, what? He was distracted. Ta-da! They win! But no, instead what they decide to do is we must fight him on his terms. And it's all built up like it's this big epic battle. And again, to go with the module idea I keep pushing, this is clearly the boss battle at the end of the module. It's a shame, it's incredibly pathetic. Yes, I know, animation limitations, but honestly, I actually counted from the time that they kick off in the low gravity to go fight him to the time which they call for the emergency beam out, which actually happens relatively quickly for once, is 5 seconds. A 5-second fight. And it's literally just one of them grabs him, and the other one bounces off the wall and grabs the other side. Done! And that's it. That's your big encounter. Just shoot them. So then they win, and then their memories are erased, and they get to go home. And is anyone else bothered by the fact that there's just this random race out there that we've never heard of before and we'll never hear of again, that apparently is so ridiculous that they can super breed to the point where they could pose a threat on a galactic scale if they wanted to? Are these the proto-Jem'Hadar? I'm just wondering. I was actually thinking about the feasibility of this, and I know I shouldn't think about the believability of a Star Trek cartoon, but here I am, and again, job and personal preference, thinking. But I started thinking about it. That doesn't make as little sense as one might initially presume. Here's the thing. If you can breed that quickly, what you're going to have very, very fast is a resource problem. But resource problems can be solved by taking resources. And now you see the pattern, the idea of what would happen if this was to happen. They could breed so quickly and just overwhelm their enemies with sheer numbers. And then in so doing, they would be able to claim the resources of the people that they have conquered. And of course, they have less people, they have less mouths to feed, so that helps solve that problem. And this all just sounds very Germany, doesn't it? World War II Germany specifically, since that was one of the big deals about their initial campaign plans in World War II, was we need to claim this resource, this resource, this resource, and this resource like this. And that's in the first few years of the war were basically lined out simply by absolute necessity of resource gain. Like nothing else, right? Everything else was more ideological, but that initial thing was just, we need this to fuel the massive pumping out that we've been doing, since their economy was extremely unsustainable. And you see the parallel, right? It makes perfect sense, right? Hang on, there's a caveat there. This is space. And unless you're the Tyranids, or the Zerg, you can't really just throw bodies at the enemy to win. It doesn't really work that way. Damon Bach actually tried that once in his revenge schemes for Picard. That didn't work out well. But the point being, it doesn't apply. They still need the resources to begin with to build the ships, to man them with their overwhelming numbers. And if they don't have the resources to begin with, then all they have is an overpopulation problem and a bunch of people who are landlocked, because what the hell else are they going to do? So, no, I'm going to take all that back. This is stupid. But it's okay, because it all ends and it was all just a dream. And I hate to keep repeating myself, but if you just ejected the score thing and made this Olympics thing, then this would continue to make more sense. Whatever. Mission Impossible episode over. Season 1 over. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Season 2 next time. So I hope you will join me there for the briefest Star Trek season in history. At least I think so. I don't know if any of the new Trek stuff goes below 6 episodes. I think it's 6. Anyways, I'll see you next time.